Welcome to Miles from Her View, the podcast where we dive deep into the unfiltered reality of fitness, strength training, and nutrition within womanhood and motherhood. I am your host, Kat, founder of Cat Fit Strength. I'm a career strength and conditioning coach, entrepreneur, lifelong athlete, and a mom of two active boys. In each episode, we explore the unique challenges and triumphs faced by women navigating the complexities of life. From juggling family and career to prioritizing self-care, we dissect the systems and the habits that shape our health and wellness. Join us for real stories, authentic advice, and genuine conversations as we empower each other to embrace our journeys and find strength in vulnerability. Welcome back to Miles from Review. I'm here with Holly, and Holly is a board-certified sports dietitian and founder of Time to Thrive Nutrition. It's a nutrition practice based in Phoenixville, PA, and she specializes in women's health and sports nutrition. Holly is passionate about helping her clients find nutrition solutions for their lifestyle. Welcome. I'm super excited to have you today.
Thanks, Kat. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So would love to hear how you got to where you are and just kind of that little bit of journey so that those who are listening can kind of get a little bit more of a sense of your passion behind your work.
Yeah, awesome. So, I preparing for this, I actually took a second and I was like, wow, it's been quite a decade. I think the last 3 years of my life have been a little chaotic because, I have a 3.5-year-old. So I'm like, how did we get here? So a majority of the beginning of my career was spent in the hospital setting. So we lived in Philly. So I was at McGee Rehab and then I was at Lankenau. And I really got a good foundation for what we call as like medical nutrition therapy. So like, how do we manage blood sugars, cholesterol, acute care? I really liked it. But then I also felt like I wanted to work with my clients more and know more about like what was their driving their food choices? Like, how could we really help? In the hospital, we would spend 10 minutes with them versus now I spend an hour with clients and it flies by, right? They're always like, I don't think we need the full hour. And then it like goes to like an hour and they're like, oh my gosh, it's already, 2 p.m. No way. So that really is what drove me to the outpatient space. So I've been an outpatient for the last 5 years. And in the beginning, I was working with most populations, like women, men, from age 10 to, 85. And I started to hone in on like, I really like working with women in particular. In conjunction, I started fertility treatment. So I think, and I have PCOS. So it was like diving into my own personal, nutrition and then women's health. And it was just, it really, I liked the population and it was a really underserved and very limited education when I was working with the providers. Nothing was discussed about nutrition. So I was like, wow, okay, this could be a space where I would like to work in. So then that's really when I, branched off and made my own practice. So I opened the practice in January of 22. And so now we focus on women's health, and that's really from adolescence, all, through menopause. We help women. And then the other tier of my practice is really like the sports nutrition side of it. So I've been a lifelong athlete. Now I've run, do cross training, all the things, anything that can get me moving. And especially in the season of life, carrying children, postpartum, all of that fun stuff. And then I sat for my board certification for sports nutrition in June of 3. So it's really been a great pairing between women's health and sports nutrition because most of our women that we do see are active. So, and we will work with, young females that have, REDS or like relative energy deficiency in sport. So if they're really under fueling, we will work with them all the way up through like moms who are marathon training. So yeah.
I love that. And there are so many, I see a lot of this in my field. And I always say, I'm a nutrition coach and I defer heavily to registered dietitians. I can look at a quick glance and be like, yeah, you need more food, but the nitty gritty, like PCOS, even, the sports dietitian, like it plays an integral role into your overall health, but also your body composition, because you can't outwork a poor nutrition diet. Like you need that backing. And it's not like, I feel sometimes in the social media world, it's like, oh, just do one and you'll be fine and not the other, when it's like they all work together. And I'd love to hear more of that about, I feel like especially women, like the prime time is like protein, get your protein. And if you're not consuming copious amounts of protein, you're doing it wrong. But thoughts on that and just kind of the reasonings of why, and I argue this is my opinion, but I mean, I'm over 40 and I hear my age range with clients is anywhere from like, bookend, but primarily 35 to 45 with a 5-year bookend on the other side of those, where they come in and they're like, oh, I know protein is so much more important now. And I'm like, well, it's always important. It's, the one of the reasons is like it's going to help you maintain that muscle mass. But like, I would love to hear your thoughts. I know it's a broad topic, but just kind of how to incorporate and why it's important for strength, overall strength and muscle health. So
Yes, protein is always the favorite macronutrient, right? So everyone, like sometimes it's been like the keto diet, which like that is so, great and good, whatever. But protein and blueberries, I was told by one client, there's never anything wrong with protein and blueberries. You're safe, she said. I was like, oh my God, that's great. So I think, yes, protein is important. And there's two things, right? We like after the age of 30, and this is not to be daunting or pessimistic, but we know like after the age of 30, we start our body starts to break down if we don't hold on to it, right? We're either building or we're breaking down. It's like anabolism or catabolism. There's no like we're not steady state anywhere.
yes.
So really explaining that to people and be like, okay, after the age of 30, we have to like hold on to everything that we, the first 30 years built, right? So having adequate amount of protein throughout the day is really important because we don't really have a reservoir for protein like we do with fat and carbohydrates. So we really want, most of the time women, there's always going to be it depends, but most of the time we want women to have anywhere between like, 25 to 35 grams of protein at each meal. Prior to collagen happening in the last 2 years, people would have like 5 grams at breakfast, 20 grams at lunch, and 50 or 60 at dinner. So if we could just try to even consumption out throughout the day, and for women who are active, really making sure we consume enough before, during, and after, the workout is really, really important. If we see people who want to have like body composition changes, right? They want to lose weight, if they want to define whatever they want to do not touch the food before, during, and after. Don't restrict.
Yes.
Like you want to make sure you have enough nutrients around that time. And then maybe we can look at, the afternoon snack or the evening snacking, whatever is kind of like the furthest away from your workout. So when it comes to protein, the most important thing is consistently eating protein throughout the day. I mentioned collagen earlier. I'm a fan of it. I'm not sure if it's going to help everyone's hair, skin, and nails. That's still TBD, but it is helping people get in, 15 to 20 extra grams of protein at breakfast. So I'm here for it.
I feel you on that. Like I know I get a lot of questions with clients, like, is this protein better than the other? And it's like, look, I want you to get protein in. And it's like, I always tell clients, I'm like, I love chia seeds and throwing them in my protein shake. Like I have them in there because they have the omegas and they also have their sneaky protein. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a way for me to boost without feeling like I got to gnaw on a turkey leg every hour to get my protein quota in.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's look at unorthodox, so to speak, ways versus just an animal-based
Mm-hmm.
protein. There's a lot of great plant-based proteins. There's a lot of seeds or other things that you can throw in to enhance what you're already doing. The one thing I find with clients is like, especially in the mornings where it's very chaotic, they tend not to eat, and especially not protein. And I would say like breakfast isn't the most important meal of the day, but it should be a good like foundational starting meal. Like you need to get that metabolism. I hate to say woken up, but like you need that base to get energy from
Mm-hmm.
that sleep. Like I'd love to hear your thoughts around breakfast and protein there.
Yes, I had 2 breakfasts today and yesterday. I love breakfast.
I
I
love
think,
breakfast too.
and I'm here for it. So a couple of things. When someone says, Holly, I just am not hungry, I actually look at like, what do you do the night before? Are we
Yeah.
up? Did you have a huge breakfast or have a huge dinner and then also have like a lot of snacks because you were hungry, right? So trying to be like, all right, so it seems like a lot of our nutrition is like in the second half of your day. What if we just tried to like shift it a little bit
Yes.
and like actually gave you nutrients for your brain, your muscles, your organs to like use when you're most active? So making that tweak of like, okay, if you're not hungry, what about we try to cut back on the evening snacking and just have like a bar in the morning. I start really small, or like smart start small and simple
Hmm.
of like what is really going to work for that person. I think something in the morning, the collagen is a great option for the coffee with something else. But can we get a carb in there? Can we do like peanut butter toast? Can we do a banana? Something. Also, people with kids, I say, you're feeding your children. You need to make that piece of toast for you, do something, make, the frozen waffle. Half of them are recalled at the moment, so I'm sorry. But, overnight oats is a great option if you can batch them up. I love the Fairlife shakes.
Yes.
They're great. So doing like a Fairlife as your protein plus a carb. So really trying to make sure you have enough at breakfast. So with every meal, we really try to have clients do like a carb, a protein, a fat, and a color. For people who don't eat breakfast at all, I'm not going to have them do all four parts. That's like, that feels overwhelming. So starting with something to like, because you're totally right. Like, we have to like start our GI system.
Yeah.
We have to start it, or else people get really hungry come 4 p.m.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what I find with like clients. I say, I'm like, no one's doing it completely wrong. We all know what to eat, and you have to shift a little bit. And if you're not sleeping well, some of it could be you're eating way too late and your body has to process that. And so then it's not going to repair. So in like get the downtime it needs. So then you're going to be working when you're sleeping. So you're going to wake up not as rested, and you're going to be stuck in this like cyclic process of like, I just want to feel better. I want to feel rested. I want to feel like hungry when I need to be hungry and not hungry when, and it's, and I'm like, I get it. Motherhood, especially those early years, I argue any of the years, but my
Yeah.
kids are a
Yeah.
little older,
All
they're
of it.
10 and 13, but I'm like, my goodness, mornings can be manic, but
Mhm.
like the overnight oats. And I find for myself, breakfast is one of the easiest things to batch cook and have on hand. And you don't have to start doing all 5 meals, but just do one, or look at what are your busiest mornings. And just like you said, a bar or the Fairlife shakes are great, and they have that great protein. And I like them because they have that uptick. I'm a big chocolate person. So like I can have a chocolate one of those and be like, I got
Mhm.
chocolate in the morning. This is great.
Yep. And it actually tastes good. It tastes like
Yes.
real
Yes.
chocolate
Yes.
versus like
Chunky.
Orgain's
Like,
chocolate is not
yeah.
as good. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it's like it's exciting. Another thing, keeping with the morning theme a little bit, eating. So some of my clients and myself, I'm a morning workouter.
Mhm.
Um, can you speak to the importance of kind of eating a little bit or around workouts? Like, okay, you're already getting up early, kind of how nutrition can play a role in helping workouts in that way. So,
Yeah. So for those morning exercisers, finding something that works for you. Like my favorite is a banana. Like we don't have to go like, and you can do half of banana. The
yeah,
idea is we want to have something that is easy to digest so our body can take those carbohydrates, digest it, absorb it, and then that glucose can be energy for our workout. So it doesn't have to be anything big. You don't have to toast anything. I used to do like peanut butter crackers, like the 4 pack, eat them on the way to the gym, right?
yeah,
If you want to do liquid, you can. So even like 4 ounces of juice, something, I will say your stomach is a muscle and we can train it. So if you're like, oh my goodness, I cannot tolerate anything, can we start with like a bite of something or an ounce of juice, something to like start waking up your stomach and be like, okay, I can tolerate this. This is what we tell with like, anyone, whether it's, I have a swimmer that starts at 5 a.m. So we're like, okay, what are we doing there? So it's just a little bit that we can start training the stomach. The other thing is like an applesauce pouch can
yeah.
be really great. And easy, very easy to digest and absorb. So the idea is, yeah, we have stored glucose in glycogen, but our body doesn't like to tap into that, right? We want to try to use our blood glucose, our blood sugar. So the idea is we get that from food and digestion and absorption. So trying to start small, having something would be my recommendation, and see how you feel.
Yeah, I like that. And I love what you said there is like the stomach is a muscle and you can train it. And I definitely know like firsthand there because I'm an endurance athlete. I run ultra marathons. And when I kind of crossed over to that side, it was like, oh, I have to eat while running. Oh my goodness, no way. Like that sounds horrifying. And as I've progressed, I'm now able to take in high calories in an hour, high carbs, proteins, and like, I see much better results. I recover
Yeah.
better. I don't bonk. I'm not like having these massive energy dips. And the hard work and the training that I'm putting in is actually working because it all works together. So it's like I'm feeling better. And then, especially like with the miles and the strength training, it's like I still have life outside. So I'm not finishing a hard workout or a longer run and being like, oh my goodness, now I need to nap for ever because my body has no energy. Because essentially, I mean, like, and you know this, but I'm gonna say this, like the definition of calories is energy. Like we need
Yeah.
energy to like move our bodies, to think, to like, do that. So it's like looking at that, you're going to get much more out of your workouts if you have that little bit and sustain when you go into work. Because I do hear from clients that are like, well, I'm crashing when I get to work. And it's like, well, are you eating after? Well, it was a rush. Well, how do we set yourself up for success that you have something, because I mean, I love food. So I'm like, I'm going to have food around me,
Mhm.
but it's like, that's going to help you sustain. So you have that energy balance there. So,
And I think sometimes if people are a little resistant, this is also where like the nutrition counseling comes into piece.
yeah.
Because I'm like, are you afraid of eating? Is it more from like, oh, I want my body to, like tap into its fat stores? I'm like, because physiologically, that's not what it's going to do. It's going to tap into your glucose stores. It's going to leave your fat stores alone, and it's going to tap into your glucose stores and really use that primarily. It will tap into your fat stores a little bit, but really coming at it from like, do we have some like disordered eating thoughts or disorder? Like, I want weight loss. Okay, weight loss can happen, and don't touch your nutrition before, during, and after.
Yeah.
So asking it, kind of probing for that can be really helpful. Be like, okay, like, do you feel like eating a half of a banana before your workout? Do you feel like that's going to, get in the way of your weight loss efforts?
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And that is so important because it is, as there's so much out there that I'm sure you cringe. You're like, what are you? No, that's not how it works. And it is, I mean, I see it with, the strength training, the cardio training, the mobility, where there's just a lot where it's allowing the client to shift the mindset and like ditch a lot of the nuanced stuff that is out there. And I mean, I'm going to say, especially for women, I feel like we're under attack, and especially like perimenopause and menopause is like, which is great. It is in mainstream. It's being talked about. I'm here for all this
mm,
stuff to be talked about, but there is some stuff that has been really nuanced. And I like what you had said a little bit earlier, and this kind of goes into this, is like, you're either, building or breaking down, and there's no homeostasis. And, you know, that's where the metabolism, it's like you don't want a balanced, straight metabolism. You need to have fluctuation with it. And yeah, it's like, I'd love to hear kind of going into that, like how nutrition can influence that hormone health and the metabolism. I hear a lot, oh, well, I'm XYZ age, my metabolism stopped working. I'd love to hear some insight from that nutrition perspective there.
it's so nuanced, right?
Yeah, this
um,
is a big topic too. I just threw you, I'm like, here you go.
oh my gosh, it's so, really, it's interesting. Looking at lifestyle, I think is huge, and seeing, you know, are they doing strength training? That's always kind of what I look at. I'm like, okay, if if you're only walking is great. And also, we've got to get you doing some sort of strength program. I mean, the Academy of Medicine, recommends 3 days a week of strength training, and some people are doing zero. So I'm like, okay, we have the protein intake, but you have to find some sort of strength training, with it's with a trainer, home, whatever's going to fit. So trying to look at it from that end. I also look at NEAT, so that non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So I have a chart and it says, 100% of your resting energy expenditure, right? So we have our basal metabolism that's, made up of like muscle, what your organs do, your age, your gender. That makes up, 60% of your total energy expenditure. And then we have our NEAT, which is like, what do we do, like basically for a job?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, are you sitting? Are you a nurse? Are you a teacher? Are you a construction worker? Like, what are you, stay at home mom? Are you running around with all your kids? Because I know I'm much more active on the days that I'm home with my kids versus when I'm working with clients. Right. So saying like, what does your day-to-day step count look like in that? And then exercise is like the top. It's really like the 10% for most people, for the endurance athletes, it will be more, but really showing them an example of like how we can increase your metabolism is one, increasing muscle mass,
Yeah.
two, looking at NEAT. So what do we do? Can we get up and walk for 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, can we get some sort of movement? And that can help with boosting metabolism. And then looking at exercise. Now, when we look at the food aspect of it, really trying to say to them, we have to eat consistently throughout the day.
Yeah.
We know that our body likes regular intervals of food. I am not a fan of intermittent fasting. I think it allows people to just skip breakfast and then eat whatever they want from the hours of 12 to 8. That's the standard, window of time that I always see. I'm not a fan of it, especially for people who work out in the morning, especially for females. It's not helpful. If someone comes to me hell bent on intermittent fasting, I'm like, can we just shift those hours a little bit?
Yeah.
Maybe 10 to 6, and then we'll see. But really, from a nutrition standpoint, we want to try to eat regularly throughout the day, getting enough protein, also getting enough fiber.
Yes,
Fiber helps your body clear toxins there's not some special supplement that clears toxins. It's going to be fiber, right? So those are kind of some of the things that we look at, like when we say like boosting your metabolism. I really look at whole foods. We don't use any supplements, especially any of like the metabolism boosting supplements, because they're just really not validated or research backed. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not fans of them.
Yeah. And I feel you on that. And I feel like, to remember, you said so many great things right there. So I'm
Sorry, I threw everything at you.
No, it's great. I'm like,
it's such a loaded topic. Oh my goodness.
I know, and I threw that at you, and it is, and there's so much right now that is out there, and I honestly, like, I get caught up in it, and like I know the science, and it's like I get like, oh wait, maybe I should, and I'm like, stop the like scroll, and it's super easy because like an influencer makes it super flashy, and this, different things, and I get it from the lens of my clients because they want the relief, they want to see the change, and it takes time, and that's the frustrating thing. But to your point with intermittent fasting, I try and explain that like we all have a fast because we don't eat while we sleep. And at some point at the end of the night, you stop eating and then you don't resume until you put that, I'm going to just use food as an example because I know if you put something in your coffee, like a creamer, yes, you're kicking off but like it's like there is that window. So everybody does have a fast, but it's when you take it to the extremes that it's like it can set you up for failure and work against the goals that you want. And that part, I'm like, oh, let's just shift it like a little bit, or let's look at like you need food, if you're bonking or in that, like you said, that 12 to 8 window, you're just eating everything because you're so hungry and you force that. Well, that's a bit of a dysregulation with your body. Your body's telling you that it needs a better balance right now. It's so.
Yeah. I will always say like the literature that, intermittent fasting has been used for longevity. It has not been used for weight management. And that's a lot of times people come wanting weight loss with intermittent fasting, but really it's it's calorie deficit that has been shown to be
Yes.
effective. It's not the duration of time. It's really the intermittent fasting has been shown in the longevity population for and it's 12 to 14 hours, with the one study showed 9 hours was beneficial for longevity. So when we think about longevity, then when we're not eating, our body's able to digest and rest and do other cell processes and turnover. So then for longevity purposes, right? Versus eating around the clock or so yeah, coming at them, we're like, okay, where are we? Can we do 12 hours of fasting or, 14, but just in a normal time period or
Exactly.
normal times of the day.
Yeah. And the other thing, I love what you said there is because it is a caloric deficit for weight loss, but sometimes it's not addressed. Like the caloric deficit is going to look different for each person.
Yeah.
And that's where, I always tell my clients, I'm like, you need to work with a registered dietitian that is going to do a deeper dive to understand your each person has a unique, like I'm going to use a fingerprint of calories they need and your lifestyle, like all the things you said that go into metabolism. So you can read, I'm going to say in a magazine or hear from an influencer that like, oh, cut your calories by 500 and you're going to be in deficit. No, that could be detrimental to someone where
Mm-hmm.
you're going to wind up going the other way. And, cortisol is a big topic, but you're going to spike that cortisol level. You're going to be so going into that lower energy reserve that your body needs more, and you're going to work against yourself in that regard. So it's like there's no one specific number that's universal for everyone, and that's the thing that I know for my clients, I'm like, it's very bespoke. There are research backed methods that have not changed for a long time. We're discovering more to help women, like, with PCOS and with the perimenopause, with other, things, but it's like you need to work what's going to work for you. And,
Mm-hmm.
even if the number is, I'm just going to use 500, is going to get you in a calorie deficit, but you might need to work up to that to help for that. Cause it could be a quick drastic that it's too bold, that it's like feels too restrictive at first. So,
Yeah, I always think about this pendulum with clients, right?
yeah.
So if you restrict by 500 or 1,000, sometimes the my fitness pal things are lose it. I'll hear what people are doing. I'm like, holy smokes, that's
Yeah.
3 meals that you're restricting. It's so much. So if we restrict so much that we're swinging to one side, they're going to get hungry, and it's going to be a Friday night and you're really hungry and you're going to eat the whole pint of ice cream because you're just so darn hungry. So
Yes.
it's these extremes that, most women really, if they do want some body composition changes, it's generally 200 to 300 calories max.
Mhm.
Men can be 300 to 400, but we know that if we go much further, higher than that for women who really, and I'm talking women who want a 10 to 20 pound weight loss or, anywhere between that, really the 200 to 300 calories. I know it seems small for people. That has been shown to be the least stressful, because I
Mhm.
will say and we don't, we try not to have weight loss as a primary goal for folks,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm like, what's your bigger why? Do we want to, be around for your grandkids? Do we want to not be on medication? Do we just want to feel better? Right?
Right.
What's your bigger why? Because I find that, you know, if a why is I just want to look good in a bathing suit, which could be a why, it might not be strong enough in the moment, right? So it's yeah, that could be a big enough why when I was 25,
Yeah.
but you know, and I say that I'm like, that was the big why when we were 25, but now at 30, whatever I am, I forget these days.
I feel like-
Right? I'm like, what year is it? I'm like, nah, I'm gonna have the cookie or whatever, and I'll, next year's next. So it's more about how do I, with my, with PCOS, it's I know I do better when I have a protein with a carbohydrate, right? I just know I feel better. So it's really trying to focus on the why behind people, that they want to, have body composition changes, smoking, focusing on the really a subtle deficit can be less stressful on the body.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I love that. And, I also love this. kind of moving away from just it's only about weight loss. And that's, I mean, my clients, I'm sure see it. They see body composition changes. They see a lot of different things. And, clients, and there's nothing wrong with those aesthetic goals of wanting to lose weight, but when we hyper focus on it, it's at some point when you're going through that process to create that change, you're going to hit that end point. And if you haven't learned the skills or understood and remained curious about the things that, like to your point, like I'm also at that point where I'm like, if I'm gonna have a cookie, I'm gonna have a cookie. And sure, maybe it's gonna put me over my calories. I mean, like, like I don't care. I'm having the cookie.
Mhm.
But it's like, there's going to be a point where you're going to go into like that quote unquote maintenance mode. You're not always going to be on this like you're not going to live consistently in a caloric deficit because or in strength training you're not always going to be in a build or muscle building phase. You're going to be in a maintenance phase at some point. And so the other thing is the body also adapts too. So you can't think, oh, I have to keep cutting calories because then you're going to be down to zero. But it's like you have to know there's going to be adapting and you want to be able to maintain when you hit a certain weight or that whatever it is, that's where it's like the maintenance is. But if you don't know how you got there because it was so drastic and you're white
Mhm.
knuckling it, it's not going to be lasting long. And if you are white knuckling it and really stressed, it's probably too extreme of a goal for you. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
yeah. One of the things I love in kind of on this topic of cookies is like cookies are really good. And is like I'd love to hear your thoughts on you know, a lot of women who come to me are like they're done with the stuff that we did in our 20s, the yo-yo dieting, the go work out super hard for a week to fit into that bikini for whatever the thing that you're looking towards. I'd love to hear your thoughts on incorporating I'm going to use these terms even though I don't use them, the good and bad foods, like how you work with clients on that and your philosophy around those.
So I start really like what feels good to them because I think they're looking at me to say like have 2 servings of cookies a week and that's good. That's healthy or whatever it is. And I'm like, what would feel good for you? Like, is it that like I'm gonna have cake at every birthday party that I go to? So I know it's like, oh wait, everything with with nutrition. And if you talk to a dietitian, it's always gonna be like, it depends. But I really start there. I'm like, what feels good for you? Do you want to feel for people who have like a history of disordered eating or like who's extreme diets in their 20s or if they grew up with a parent on Weight Watchers, like are they always counting points, like where do you want to just feel comfortable around food and then we have to like or desserts we have to like kind of like desensitize them to those things. Yeah, I really kind of start off with that like where do you want to be because most of our clients do not have diabetes. I have a couple of them that have type 1 or type 2, so then we have to be a little bit more mindful about timing and that sort of thing. But really starting with that like what feels good for you and like what is going to also help you meet your goals too.
Yeah. And I like that. I like that question because I feel like it's, you know, an unorthodox way of thinking about it. It's like, what feels good for me? Because, to your point of, I feel like we all grew up in this like extreme diet culture, like dialogue and influence where it was like, I mean, I right there with it. Like I fall into the trap of like, oh, I can have dessert tonight because I worked out. Like there's a reason
Mhm.
why like you have to justify your choice or whatnot versus like, hey, what feels good to me? Like, yeah, celebrating and having cake at a birthday feels good. Or, we're in the midst of like holiday season, today is actually Halloween. So it's like, yeah, I'm totally gonna steal a Three Musketeers bar from my kids' Halloween thing because they are good and it's Halloween,
Mhm.
and it shouldn't come with, well, I ate this, therefore I need to, I skip this or add more cardio, where it's like, well, what feels good for you? What is going to make this experience? Because as I explained to my clients too, I'm like, you were on this face of the earth for such a short time. and you want to enjoy and not look back, and especially around holiday times in my family we have a lot of traditional dishes, and it's like I want to know that I enjoy those dishes, and there's
Mhm.
ways to enjoy them without, I'm going to say, going off the rails or sabotaging your goals. You can enjoy foods, you can enjoy workouts, or with my clients, like I'm prepping them for the holiday season, maybe we don't schedule workouts. And that's okay because that's part of your plan. It's when we feel this like, I have to be all or nothing, is when it's like it gets that friction builds of like
Mhm.
shame and guilt. And that's not a way to live. I don't want to live like that. And I don't want
No, and
clients
I
to.
right, and I think it's when we when we classify, when we say like, "Oh, this is what I should do or what I shouldn't do," right? And you say
Mhm.
like, "Don't judge yourself." Like,
Yeah.
what do you want to do? Like, do you want to eat a whole bag of, M&Ms? That probably wouldn't feel good anyway. But go ahead, right?
Yeah.
There is like when we when clients do really fear foods, we don't do eating disorders. Like I refer to a dietitian for that, but like there is this line, especially in athletes, whether we're talking a 15-year-old or for I have a 53-year-old client who is a cross country runner and now's a runner, and she has some disordered thoughts for 30
Yeah.
plus years, right? So it's like, all right, let's have ice cream, a half a cup of ice cream every night for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And once they get to that fifth day, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
So it's really kind of like taking the emotions out of but like not judging ourselves, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, yes, you can have like social food around like holidays and stuff and it's joyful, but like stop, putting yourself in a box and judging yourself,
Mhm.
because that's where it's not the action, like it's not eating the cookie or eating the ice cream. Then we feel guilty. And then the rest, like then people do other things, like, self-sabotage, right? So it's just like,
Right.
yeah, like let's just kind of like take the let's not think too much about the treat. Just have the Halloween candy and move on, right? Like
Yeah.
act like our kids do,
I
right?
know. Yeah.
Like they don't they don't think like that. Like I just love watching my 3-year-old. They're like, yes, she loves candy, but like she won't finish it or she'll forget about it. And I was like, oh, we all need to be like that, you know?
Yeah. I love them. I don't know if you ever watched Ted Lasso, but there's a line on there, be like a goldfish, they forget in 10 seconds.
Mhm.
Just like
Right.
it's just it is what it is. It's like
Exactly.
yeah, and it is, like I was of the mindset with my kids, and again, tonight's Halloween, is like, you can have however many pieces of candy you want tonight. Because I know they're not going to overeat. There was
Hmm.
one Halloween where my one child did, and he's like, that made me feel really bad. I'm never going to do that. I said, brilliant. You learned something. That's huge. You like decoded that. That's awesome.
Right.
And so now he's like, oh, I'll have 3 pieces and I'm good. And then,
Hmm.
they'll have a piece of candy or 2 pieces of candy a day for the next week. And then they'll forget about the candy. I'll forget there's candy in the pantry, and like
Uh-huh.
springtime, I'm like, oh, where's this from?
Yes.
And it's like, I love what you said. It's like putting yourself in that box and just really restricting magnifies. And I say when we do that, like our inner toddler comes out, we want it even more. Where if we just be kind to ourselves and just enjoy and forget, it's fine because, you know, you can have a healthy nutrition profile, you can have a great workout routine without perfection. And if it required perfection, there would be probably very few people on this face of the earth that would be fit and healthy. Like,
Hmm.
we're not all going to be able to do it perfectly, and nor should we.
No, I
So,
listened to your podcast yesterday on the decision fatigue, and I love we use a couple similar analogies or sayings. Or like perfection is a moving target, like progress over perfection. Like let's just try to do like one thing differently or in your mind like better, just like one day at a time. Then trying
yeah.
to be perfect is just not happening. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And especially when I always say, like, the beginning with parenting, you're in the thick of it. I remember it so well. Is, you know, just the smallest improvement. It may feel like nothing, but it's going to be something. And, I would say, I'm like, if you can do 5 squats, it's 5 more. Like,
right.
it to your point, like if the Fairlife shakes are the things that are going to help get you that protein in the morning, that's huge. It's better than not doing.
Mhm.
And know that that season is going to change. Like the kids are going to get older. You're going to be more rested, but it's when we sit here and be like, well, if I can't batch cook for the whole week, or if I can't meal plan for the whole week, then we're going to live in this chaotic pattern. And it's like, no, little by little is how you're going to build it. And it's going to, I was the big perfection seeker too. I was like, I should be able to meal prep every single meal. And it was not real. It was not realistic. And I tried
Right.
it. I failed miserably, but yeah, it's like having that compassion towards yourself and owning it. And that's why I think it's really great for women to work with individuals like yourself that are going to be able to break it down and humanize it, like for on their level, and meet them where they're at, because it can feel very impossible in this era of the fitness influencer, the nutrition influencer, or just the influencers on social media. I always say anyone can make anything look good for a 10-second reel. Anyone can make anything look good.
Mhm.
So, and it's just not realistic.
Right. Oh, 1,000%. Yeah.
Um, there's so much more I want to get to, and we will have to have you back, because I'm like, oh my goodness, we have to cover this, and we need to get this in here, and we need it. But where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they? I know you said you're in Phoenix, so I will ask this one question: do you work with clients virtually? Or
Oh, yes. I say that is the one silver lining of the pandemic. We are an insurance-based practice, so insurance now covers telehealth. So we see 50% come in person, 50% are probably virtual. And we also do hybrid. I'm like, if you can come in, meet us once, great. If you decide 10 minutes before your visit that you can't come in, great. Okay, we'll switch to virtual. So we're pretty flexible on that. And yes, so we're in Phoenixville. We just moved from Harleysville. You can find us at time to thrive-nutrition.com. And then on Instagram, we're Time to Thrive Nutrition. So it's myself and Shelby. She's also a board certified sports dietitian.
okay, that is awesome. Definitely follow them, look it up. And it's such a, like, I love that you said you take health insurance, because that is so useful. And I love that. I love when I saw that change, that health insurance now covers virtual for
Mhm.
dietitians. I'm like, it's just the way of the world. Like
Yeah.
you need that. But this was so great. And like I said, we will have you back in the future, because there's more topics we need to cover.
Oh, yeah. It's been so fun. Thanks, Kat.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Miles from Her View. Your support means the world to me, and I truly appreciate you being a part of our community. If you found today's episode helpful and want to stay informed about all things Cat Fit Strength, make sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. You'll receive exclusive insights, tips, and updates straight to your inbox. To sign up, simply visit the show notes or the subscription link. To discover more about Cat Fit Strength programs and how you can ignite your fitness journey, head over to our website at www.cat.fit. There you'll find everything you need to invigorate your path to strength and resilience. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and I can't wait to connect with you in our upcoming episodes. Take care, and remember, act to take the next step.